Laura Baines at the top of the hour. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're looking at a Europe that's been downgraded by one of the credit rating agencies on Friday, and discussing its impact with European Member of Parliament Yorgo Chatzimarkakis. He joins us from Strasbourg. He's with the German FDP party. Also with us, Jean-François Robin, Chief Strategist at Natixis Bank, and Harold Howe of the Swiss Finance Institute and the University of Geneva. Yorgo Chatzimarkakis, news has just come in that in turn it is now the Standard & Poor's has downgraded the credit rating of the European Stability Fund. That's that kitty that has been put in place to help bail out Eurozone members in need. Your reaction to that downgrade?
Well, that's what everybody expected. That's nothing that comes as a surprise. Everybody knew that if France should be downgraded by one of the rating agencies, then this will be the consequence. But that does mean that the plans foreseen for the rescue packages in Greece, or let aside Greece, take Portugal, take Italy, they won't fly that easily. That is why we have now really to rethink the whole architecture. We need to give the ECB, the European Central Bank, another role in the financial architecture in Europe. That's the only way out. And if this was not on the plan of politicians, now it urgently comes on the agenda. We, of course, will have a fiscal union. We are working hard on that new basis, on a new treaty for the fiscal union, maybe among the 27 minus one, minus the United Kingdom. But nevertheless, within this fiscal union, we won't survive the attacks also of the financial markets if we don't give the ECB another role.
You talk about attacks on the financial markets. Just a couple of reactions I have in front of me from some of your colleagues at the European Parliament. Elmar Brok of the Christian Democrats saying that credit rating agencies are pursuing Anglo-American interests, and Social Democrat MEP Martin Schulz, also a German, casting the downgrades as targeted attacks on the euro to distract from the U.S. Budget deficit. Do you think there's a conspiracy theory?
Well, I'm partly, as you know, my heritage is Greek, and in some parts of the world, people tend to believe in conspiracy. Believe it or not, it's not the question. The question is, why does it come now? Why does it come exactly, always, in the weeks where the Troika is talking in Athens to the Greeks about the further rescue? So, is it an incident? Is it by surprise? I'm not so sure. But you also have to have a look at who is owning Standard & Poor's. What's the history of Standard & Poor's? There are also clear interests, and that is what my colleagues in the European Parliament, they both belong to other parties than my party, and one will possibly tomorrow be elected as the new president of the Parliament, Mr. Schulz. They clearly highlight that there are interests in that game. But we are not going to shoot the messenger. We got the message. We have to act faster. And that is why I personally urge my German colleagues to think about the role of the ECB. I tend to repeat it, but this is the message we have to take.
Harold Howe?
I think it's very tempting in this moment of crisis to come up with these stories where it's all the financial markets' fault. They sabotage us. If one would take a more distant historical view of it, one could say this downgrade has been in preparation for 30 years. There have been 30 years of continuously rising government deficits in Europe and in France, and this was sure to come to some end. It is true that the financial crisis has accelerated a lot of this, but one cannot say there are no economic fundamental reasons why investors might be worried about this trend. So we are ahead of a monumental period of adjustment in this respect. And the question is, how good are we able to make this transition to a more stable and and responsible fiscal policy. And this is absolutely nothing to do with rating agencies. This is an absolutely fundamental challenge for the European economies.
Let me play for you, Jean-François Romain, the conclusion of the German Chancellor over the weekend and get your reaction to it. This is what she had to say about the waves of downgrades.
The measure of introducing constitutional debt limits in every European country will be effective, as we are also implementing forceful sanctions. These resolutions will be enacted quickly, and we will work to implement the European Stability Mechanism as quickly as possible. That is also important for investor confidence.
She's taken a bit of a battering by some of the financial press this Monday, saying she's got a lot of ideas on how to tighten belts, but there isn't much in there about spurring growth, especially in Southern Europe.
Yeah, it's true, because there's two things. There's this, I would say, medium-term things we have to do, which is this fiscal union we are talking about, Merkel is talking about. Okay, that's for sure. The investors, the people want some kind of a path towards some more integration, because it's not a question only of deficit, it's a question of external imbalances, which is something which is we know since the 19th century, that in a union you have some imbalances at some point. So I think we need some steps towards some more integration in terms of fiscal union. But having said that, in the short term, we need much more than the EFSF. Probably maybe we need some ECB to step in, maybe, but clearly we need something more than that. Maybe Eurobonds, maybe something like that, but we need some more on the very short term to win over the confidence which is a bit lost in the Eurozone by non-Eurozone investors.
Yorgo Chatzimarkakis, how do you act fast at this point to redress some of those imbalances we're talking about?
Well, one thing is, of course, to implement. And what we can see in countries like Greece, there isn't a lot of implementation of what was promised. But what we can see in Italy is that there is a lot of implementation, and nevertheless, there has been the downgrading. So, yes, there are fundamentals for the assessment of the rating agencies, but if they would have thoroughly assessed everything, they would possibly have come to another result. But you ask for a fast track, for a fast result. Again, when the ECB stepped in a few weeks ago, by borrowing a lot of money, 500 billion to the banks, it was very, very important for the markets, and the markets reacted very positively. These are the actions we need now. We can talk in depth about the ECB, but there is no way. We have to talk about it. We have to reassess the role of the ECB, and that's the quickest, the fastest answer the European politicians can give. That, of course, demands a lot of steps into this new direction by Germany. This is very difficult, I know, but the Chancellor has lost so many battles in the past. She will lose this battle as well.
She will lose that battle.
I'm sure that she will lose that battle. Otherwise, we will have a big, big problem in the Eurozone. And she will, after some of the main personalities that had kept this hard line of the Bundesbank and Germans representing their country in the European Central Bank have stepped down. Now there are new personnel. There's new personnel. There's a new president also of the ECB, and I'm pretty sure that the ECB will urge, well, the reality will urge also the Germans to change their position. There's no doubt about it.
Now, last week, the Italian premier, an economist in his own right, went to see the German chancellor. He reported back to his parliament that he'd warned Angela Merkel it can't all be austerity.
Europe is not only about budget discipline. It's very important to move beyond this and to invest constructive political energy in growth.
And in its lead editorial this Monday, the Financial Times is saluting that stance, Harold Howe, saying Germany must agree to make swifter and more effective use of the European Financial Stability Facility. One columnist also saying that Germany and its partners must do more to tackle reform in the private sector. Can those things happen quickly?
I think the problem is that on the German side, as well as on the ECB, one does not believe that one has complete control over Greece. I mean, what the colleague in the European Parliament just said is partly illusionary. Even if the ECB bankrolls a lot of further government spending, it's not clear that Greece will be able to get its budget under control, whether they're actually able to turn around. This is a matter of political institutions, how mature they are. It's a very complicated thing. So I think the ability either by Germany or by the ECB to turn the Greek situation around are rather limited. And that's sort of the deeper issue here. What kind of continuous commitment do you have, or do you cut the rope and say that's the end of the line, and now we have to look out for our own interest, because it's not clear that Germany is not being tracked into this abyss of a spiral of deteriorating ratings and so on. So the next revision might well see Germany downgraded. So that, of course, is a real concern. And so I think the optimistic vision that the ECB can settle this, I think that's illusionary, I think.
Yorgo Chatzimarkakis, your reaction?
Sometimes reality is stronger than illusion. So I'm not here to be an illusionist. I'm here to explain to you that the ECB already acted and it calmed down the markets. And I clearly also say that the Greeks did not implement. So it doesn't help if ECB flows money over these countries. That's true. That's what the colleague said. But on the other hand, the Greeks have to implement, but they should implement things that are realistic again. So if I give you one example. The Troika came last week, came up with cutting the minimum wage in Greece without any reason, without any link to the deficit of the country. That was pure ideology. So if we don't start to be realistic and to force on Greece and on other countries programs that are realistic, we won't get out of this. And on the other hand, the ECB has to play a new role. I don't neglect that the Greek change has to come, and implementation of the system and maturity of the system. But things have to go parallelly. And I think people who believe that this change is not possible, these people might put the whole Eurozone at stake with enormous consequences for world finances and world economy.
All right, we've heard what the German Chancellor had to say. Let's listen to what the French President had to say. Nicolas Sarkozy, on a visit this Monday to Spain, visibly irritated when a journalist asked him why a summit between himself, Merkel, and Mario Monti had been pushed back a month, and offering his own conclusions as to what this all means.
I have to take the real economy into account. Deficits are too high, there is too much spending and not enough growth. These are the problems the entire Eurozone is facing.
Jean-François Romain, when you're in the trading room, do you get the sense that there is a sense of urgency now among politicians that they are at least trying things to try to redress some of these imbalances?
I think so, yeah. I think that's part of the good thing of the message the rating agency are pushing through now, is that we need to do something about this. But once again, I think all this debate about austerity is not anything. It's not the whole thing. We need something more than austerity. And I think what President Sarkozy says is right in a way, is that you have to do something about your deficit, but you have to do something about your growth as well. And this, again, has to be done within a Eurozone scheme.
What does it mean to do something about growth? Does it mean basically dismantling current labor law in places like France and Italy?
I think everything is in the Lisbon agenda already. That is what we are trying to do with the Greek, what we are trying to do in Italy at the moment, what we are trying to do a bit everywhere, is to have some kind of a balance between reducing your deficit on a way and opening up the economy as well to make sure that you get better growth. The problem of Italy, it's its growth. The problem with France compared to Germany is probably growth potential as well. So I think that's where the reform lies. But once again, austerity in itself won't work either. The rating agencies are saying it. If you add austerity to austerity everywhere in Europe, you come up with some kind of recession. And rating agencies, again, S&P, I don't want to be the advocate of the rating agencies, that's quite a paradox here, but clearly they're right into that.
Before we go, Yorgo Chatzimarkakis, looking ahead at the calendar, first round of the French presidential elections in April. Does that mean we're going to have gridlock at the European level when it comes to making bold decisions? There won't be anything before then?
I see it the other way around. I think if Mr. Sarkozy wants to win, he needs now a success, a fast success. We have the March summit ahead of us, the fiscal union that will be created by the 26 European member states. And there Mr. Sarkozy might come up with, after the downgrading of his country, he might come up with a new idea. And again, it won't surprise you, this idea might have to do with the ECB.
Harold Howe, your prediction?
My prediction is that Sarkozy will try anything so that the crisis is moving on, namely resist the default on Greece, and that's probably what the financial market is speculating, that his horizon is now 100 days, not more, and that's the contemporaneous horizon of French politics. So nothing will be done to change things. Either a Greek default is probably difficult to have now, even though it would be in the public interest and would be in the interest of Greece. I think politically it's not viable, and that's what the financial market is still speculating on. On the other reform agenda, of course, nothing will happen before that either. So France, in terms politically, is on hold right now.
All right, a disagreement there. We're going to have to leave it there, but we will pick up this discussion soon. I want to thank Harold Howe. I want to thank Yorgo Chatzimarkakis for joining us from Strasbourg, and Jean-François Robin for being with us here in their studios. And thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. And if Europe's sovereign debt isn't trouble enough, Marcus Carlson will bring you the bad news on oil prices, gas at the pump hitting a record high in this country. Business is next.